Hey, I'm James, Senior Product Designer from UA, and today we're going to talk about the Tape EP3 in Starlight. This is probably one of my favorite delays, only because I grew up with it in this area of like rock guitar gods, where you would see Jimmy Page, Van Halen, Eric Johnson. They all had this unit sitting on stage, and the main reason is because it not only could do this beautiful slapback or standard delay, but it also created this sort of chaos of feedback notes and ambient things. If you've ever seen Jimmy Page with a theremin and an Echoplex, we're going to show you that later with the feedback and the tape head moving around. But also the clean sound. So what I just played you was the A, B, and C area where I was on the B machine. And that particular machine was a gently used, sort of worn tape era of the tape EP3s that didn't have a compressor on the heads. And I'm going to show you the difference right now. So I'm going to go to the A machine. This is a basically minty fresh machine. I've had it stored away with a clean tape in it. But that era also had this little compressor circuit that would hit the record head and print a tape with this beautiful sort of clicky punch at the top of the chords. So let me let you hear that. You can hear how it's just trailing off. It maintains that top of the note, that little percussive click on the chords, which is unlike the B and C machines, which are darker and don't have this little compression circuit that they put in there, honestly, to kind of clean the noise floor up. So the B and C machines are great for distorted sounds. So I'm going to play a chord and let you hear the same thing, and you can hear how that repeat is different. So you can hear how that one kind of goes more into this fluffy ambient cloud repeat. The notes get a little softer as they come back. And another interesting thing, you may have heard the tape while in flutter start to take effect as the repeats are going out. And I'm going to show you a trick that's tied to this mod knob. So if you notice here, I'm kind of roughly around the noon setting. So when we were matching these, we figured, well, if you put this at noon, this is kind of how the machine was reacting that day when we were listening to it. As the machine sort of gets warmed up, the tape can start to slip. It does all sorts of weird things. So noon is about where you want it. So imagine you turning it on for the first hour, and that's kind of what it sounded like. If you go before that, that kind of cleans it up. It pulls a lot of the sort of, almost you get chorusy sounds when the tapes start to flutter off. And it gets rid of any of the dropouts. So we can get a nice clean version of that. So you can see how the repeats are stacking. They don't have this sort of chorused spread, but that's not realistic. So that's a clean, that's probably the first 10 minutes the unit was on, where it was maintaining a nice even tape speed. So let's do this. I'm going to put you a little over noon, and you're going to notice as the repeats go, they're wobbling around into each other, so it almost creates an ambient stereo modulated image as they spread out. So let's give that a listen. You can actually hear the flutter pull the tape. It got stuck on the cartridge. So, and if we go a little more, I'm going to go to the C machine. Now this modulation knob changes with each machine because it's tied to each different EP3 we modeled. So the C machine is the one that fell down the stairs. It's got the oldest tape that I wore out for 20 years. And it's barely hanging on there, but it has that sound, that really warm, sort of saturated, crunchier tape sound. Plus it's got dropouts in the tape. So as you hear the chord move, you're going to hear a lot of ambient pitch pulling from the flutter and the modulation just from the wow kind of moving around, plus the dropouts. That's a bit extreme, but you can actually start to hear where the tape's dropping out. It gets into the delay line, and you start to hear this almost stutter effect as the delays are repeating out. So that you can use that to great effect when you're creating like these stereo ambient things. And on that topic, so how do you do that? Why did we model the tape hiss and the ground hum? That's because when you got a theremin going on, you're creating the spaceship sound, the actual mechanical defects in the machine is what you need to create that sound. So I'm going to go back and do that on the A machine and let you hear a cloud of ambient tape hiss and junk that is probably the greatest junk you'll ever hear. So let me just play a note and we're going to let it go off. There you go. There's one extra little bonus to this is it's actually two machines. So I'm going to let you hear that sort of ambient sound, and I'm going to use this division control and a little offset. So now if you're hearing this in stereo, you're going to hear two machines going off like this. So let's talk a little bit about the color knob. What this does is give you the record level to the tape head. If you look at an EP3, you don't actually see a knob for this because they hit it. There's a little hole there, and you used to have to use a jeweler screwdriver and adjust it depending on how hot your guitar was. So that's why a lot of folks would keep a little screwdriver in the compartment of an EP3, because if you change guitars, you'd hit the tape too hard, it would get distorted. But there's always these sort of magic settings for sort of a decent level output of guitar. So what we did was give you that setting at noon on the color. So if you keep that at noon, that's the typical place most echoplexes were sort of set at to hit the tape with the guitar level. So why would you want to change that? The hotter the signal, the more you hit the tape. So if you're going to give it something closer to the line level, or maybe a hot keyboard or a guitar with a lot of output, you actually want to pull the color back because you're hitting the tape hard. Although in this case, let me show you what that sounds like now, and then I'll over exaggerate it by hitting the tape. So you hear nice delays are not distorting. And if I turn this up too much, you'll see what happens. You're actually hearing tape distortion on the repeats. And again, the other direction, I can clean that up. And just like the real machines, if I pull the record level down, my mix knob gets thrown differently too. So I have to turn up the mix knob as I pull the color down. So let me turn up that. So it's actually a little under gain for it. So that's why I typically put it at noon. That's where a nice guitar level output signal is kind of perfectly dialed in from. And again, if you turn it up, nothing wrong with that. You can just pull the mix down and get some distorted delays. You're going to find some really neat effects when you play with the division control, the two machines, throwing the modulation up, let the thing feed back. And hopefully you can sort of recreate some of that 70s magic all of our favorite guitar players used to do.